Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Christine Dixon of the Ordinary Sacred. I'm trying to get the glare off my glasses. This is the fourth video in my series on internal family systems Q&A from the most recent Q&A sticker that I put up on my Instagram. So this will be the last of the 12 questions that were asked. I'll answer 3 more today. And unfortunately, I'm not able to answer every question that comes into my DMs or my email, but I would be very happy for you to join my weekly IFS community or take advantage of other workshops and courses and things that I have on my website, theordinarysacred.com. All right, so let me share my screen with you. This is question number 10. And this person asks, is it normal for an exile to still feel triggered, though less intense, once unburdened? And the short answer is yes. Any and everything is normal in IFS. We just get curious about it. We observe the truth of it and we get curious about why. But this can be very common for lots of different reasons, and you can go in and ask. But I'll go ahead and share what my response was to this person. I said, yes, this is definitely possible for exiles that have been unburdened to still get activated at times. So I said, as you, the capital YU, the capital S self, who is not a part, as you continue to show up lovingly every time this part gets activated, they'll feel more and more secure. So there's lots of steps, you may know, in unburdening a part that is stuck in trauma or perhaps holds attachment wounds or cultural legacy burdens. First is witnessing any and everything they want us to really get about their experience. And that can take anywhere from a minute to over a year, depending on if it's complex trauma or how much they want us to witness. So sometimes people go through the process and they think, oh, it's just a one and done thing, but they're actually dealing with complex trauma. So that part says, no, I also want you to witness this and this and this. So a good question to ask a part is there anything else you want me to really get or understand or witness? And, just let them say, and you're not done witnessing until they say, no, I think that's it. And sometimes they'll come back again later when you check in on them and they'll say, actually, there's another thing I really want you to understand about my experience. And that's okay. When parts get activated, it's really helpful information to us to go in and get curious. But as we keep checking in on them, so again, I was saying the process, we witness and reparent, right? Sometimes those can go hand in hand. They'll show us an experience they had. They want us to really get how hard it was. And then we go in and reparent or redo. We give them what they needed in that moment but didn't have. Maybe it's simply a compassionate witness that they're not alone in it. Other times they want us to help us protect them against a perpetrator or speak up for them, or they just need a hug or supportive encouragement, whatever it is that they needed at that time, some kind of guidance, direction, protection, nurturing. And so we reparent in that way. And then when they're ready, sometimes they just want to leave. They just say, can we please get out of here? Other times we can ask, are you ready to leave? And of course, they never have to do anything they don't want to do. They can, if they have concerns, they have all kinds of concerns. I'm leaving so-and-so here, or I don't, it doesn't feel right to me to leave yet. We meet their concerns until they feel like they want to leave. And then we can retrieve them from the past, bring them into a safe space in the present. And usually there they feel relieved, lighter, and sometimes they'll spontaneously start playing, jumping around, dancing, things like that. But then we can identify where they hold the burdens that they got from that trauma or attachment wounding in or around their body. So sometimes it's represented by symbols like the clothing they're wearing or a certain object. Other times it's in their body in a certain space, and they can release that. The burdens are usually beliefs, painful beliefs like I'm unlovable, nobody can be trusted, or really intense emotions or feelings of shame, maladaptive guilt, terror, panic, grief, rage, things like that. So they can release those, and then they can invite in whatever new qualities they want, because those things that they were carrying were so heavy for them that once they can genuinely release them, they have all kinds of energy now. And when this happens, this process inside, you will notice that you have more energy available to your system. So you can ask them what they want to do or what qualities they want. They often want to dance or be creative in some way, be playful. Sometimes they just want to rest or contribute to the quality of presence or wonder or awe in our lives. But Dick Schwartz will even say that the final step, and the one that really solidifies the healing, is actually checking in on them every day for 3 or 4 weeks. And this doesn't have to be for an hour. It doesn't even have to be for 10 minutes. It can be for 20 seconds or so, just bringing that part to mind, whether you visualize them or you sense them in or around your body, and say, how are you doing? Is there anything you need? Anything you want me to know? And it can be a really quick check-in. But that regular check-in is what creates a secure attachment. So if we check in with them again, and they say, and we notice that they are not quite unburdened, they have anxious energy, or are still holding some burdens, we just get curious about it. Oh, it seems like you gave that up. Are you carrying it again? And if they say yes, we can inquire about why and what they need. Sometimes they are really afraid to get rid of their burdens because they think they won't be safe, or they'll lose their identity. So we can really meet those concerns. So there can be lots of reasons. Maybe they need us to witness more. So if they get activated again, or you check in with them and they still seem at all burdened, you can just get curious about what they need. And the self is so patient, right? It just lets them take whatever time they need. There's no time frame. So yeah, at the end of this answer here, I just said, especially with complex trauma, parts may need us to redo hundreds or even thousands of incidents, right? If something happened over and over and over again. So I personally had a part that I witnessed and reparented for 1.5 years, and it was the best thing I ever done. Some of you know about my dear people-pleasing part, Cassandra, and she was protecting just hundreds, if not more, of incidences in which she said no, or I'm sorry, she said yes when the truth was no. And so we went back and we redid all those moments and kind of experimented with, imagined what would happen if I had actually said no when that was my truth. And so it became almost like this practice in the past, so that then I could begin practicing in the present, and with the secure attachment of my capital S self inside. So it's, some people think about it and they're like, oh, 1.5 years, that's crazy. But it was just such a beautiful time of connection with that part, and really has created such a lasting change in my system. So it's all worth it. Okay, I'm going to go to the next question. Question number 11 says, where can I get trained to be an IFS practitioner? Is the IFS Institute the best way? All right, so I'll just answer this here. So relatively recently, the IFS Institute is no longer training practitioners. They're only training official mental health therapists and such. And so no more coaches in other fields and things like that, which sometimes people put in the category of practitioner. So they're not teaching level 1, 2, and 3 anymore. However, they are developing a coaching training, but you still have to have some certification as a coach for that. But what I would suggest is follow your fascination. So whether you go through the IFS Institute, you do IFS Circle, and I highly recommend the continuity program where you get to meet with Dick Schwartz every month. That's a wonderful track if that calls to you. There's also lots of other great programs through Life Architect, through they might also just be therapists, but IFS Canada, the Stepping Stones program is fabulous. And just follow your fascination. Read books, do trainings with Jay Early, Bonnie Weiss, read people, watch their videos, follow, the people who maybe you want to emulate. But the number one thing I would say is that you can only take another person in their system as far as you've gone in your own. So the most important thing is actually doing the work in your own system, whether you're doing it with your own therapist or practitioner or a peer, or if you're able to do it on your own, really getting to know your own inner family, your own parts, really feeling what it feels like to be in self energy versus blended with a part. Because the best thing you can offer a client is your own self energy. You cannot get it wrong if you're in self energy. So often what a session looks like is a constant awareness of your own system and the parts that might be rising up or getting activated for you, and meeting them on the inside, asking them for space so that you can show up in self with genuine curiosity. Yes, of course, I think the trainings are wonderful so that you can get the formula, the recipe of the model. But the most important thing is that you are using the model from a place of self energy, which comes from knowing your own system really well. And, IFS Institute is an institute, right? And I have a part that's kind of has this bias that whenever anything is institutionalized, sometimes it loses the initial spark because inevitably it has to be organized in a certain way or be given to a lot of people. And so there, begins to be rules and confinements and things like that. So my biggest encouragement is really to follow your fascination, really get to know your own system and do your own healing work. You'll never be perfect. You'll never be not human, but that's okay. That's who we are, self and parts, and we show up that way. And as we work with our own parts, we have more self energy to offer others. So that was somewhat of a long answer to that question. But let's go to the last question. Question number 12. Okay, question number 12 says, how might depersonalization / derealization disorder be explained in IFS terms? And I like the disorder is in quotes because, as you know, in my last series, there are no pathologies in IFS. And really everything can be explained through parts that either use this, I would say probably are using that strategy always in a protective way to help parts who are stuck in trauma, or maybe to try to counteract, balance out other extreme parts that are causing suffering in the system currently. So there's always a reason why parts will do that. So depersonalization, derealization, if you're not sure what that means, is kind of like you're having an out-of-body experience. Maybe people describe it like they're in a dreamland, or they're things are kind of fuzzy, things are maybe cartoonish, or it doesn't feel like they really exist. There's quite a kind of a detachment from reality, which some people will even describe as dissociation. But any kind of part that takes us out of reality is usually doing that for a reason, because it feels like reality is too painful to be in, right? So you can get curious about that. And let me just look up specifically what I said to this person. Okay, so my response, I said, great question. I would imagine there is a part doing this for a protective reason, often to take us out of the present or out of our bodies because it does not feel safe. The first step would be to ask the parts who hate or fear this, right? Because there might be parts who think they've been told this is crazy, this is pathological, so so they fear it, right? They want it to stop, of course, but we have to ask those parts actually to give space so that we can approach the part who causes depersonalization or derealization with curiosity and genuine openness so that we can get curious about it. And then from this place, we can ask them directly why they do what they do and receive answers. Again, it can be different from person to person, but it's likely that there's a part or parts that are stuck in trauma, and then something in the present is activating that. And so they feel like we've got to take you out. Or like I said, it might be polarized with an extreme part in the present that is causing suffering. Like maybe there is a self-harming or suicidal part, and it's like, I got to counteract that by helping you escape kind of in this way. And then I also made a note here to this person that, you know, when people describe depersonalization as kind of like an out-of-body experience, right? Like you're coming out of your body and you're seeing yourself. This is a lot of times what people who have near-death experiences describe initially. You know, they're on the operating table or in a car accident and they're above their body and they're able to see themselves. So this can even be or people who have done psychedelics might have this experience. So it can even be a state of consciousness that is not necessarily a negative or bad thing. I was, but it's pathologized in our culture. So I was telling this person here that when I do IFS work and I take my current adult self into the past to be with parts of me that are stuck in the past, I call it time travel, right? And in some ways, someone might describe that as derealization or even a bit of depersonalization, as I am seeing my parts or my parts are seeing me, right? I had a technique that I used that was really helpful where I would kind of imagine my perspective going to the top of my room and looking down on myself on the bed, especially when I was suffering or bedridden. And from that perspective, I would have such compassion on myself. So just because you are doing that doesn't even necessarily mean it's a negative thing, or it has to be at least. Whenever any part is burdened, it's extreme, and then it causes problems usually for other parts or other people outside who don't understand it. So you want to get curious about why it might be extreme or why it might be taking you out, right? So it's just like an addictive part that wants you to be numbed, by using a substance or scrolling or, whatever it is that's taking you out of the present moment because it feels too painful to be present. And if you can get curious about the pain and give them the hope that there is one inside of you that can be with the pain, can love it, that's bigger than it, then they don't have to do that. They can relax of their own choice. So I said, regardless of why our parts do this, I guarantee there's a good adaptive reason. There are no pathologies in IFS. So any and every pathology, mental illness, anything in the DSM, can always be understood as you making sense. It's not just you have this thing and you're doomed to have it forever. You can get curious, even if there's a physical reason, right? Like there's some kind of hormone, or maybe, a lot of medications will cause these kinds of symptoms of derealization, depersonalization. And if you go inside and you ask, and you're really genuinely open to receive an answer, the parts or your body will tell you, there's an imbalance inside, there's something going on with this medication that we're taking. They really will tell you this. So just if you go in and you're curious, you will always find out that you make sense. There's nothing to fear. You're unconditionally loved and held in love. And there's great hope in the big picture. So if you have any questions or comments about these questions and answers that I have said, if you have anything you want to add, I don't know everything. I haven't had every experience, so I would love to hear your answers to those questions as well. If you like, you can leave them in the comments below.